This round we're talking about CCIE because everything's been redone, including the topmost certifications. Guys, what's going on with CCIE?
First of all, again, like every other level that we talked about in our previous episode, CCNA, CCNP, same thing applies to CCIE. Complete revamp, complete reboot, and we have holistically changed the CCIE program. But more importantly, the difference is that at the CCNP level or CCNA, we've done it differently. So how we deliver the certification and the choices and the structure is different, but at the CCIE is different. So they cannot compare the same modality that they've listened to us and said, oh, Yusuf was saying something about this on CCNP level. That does not apply kind of straight onto the CCIE. So the community needs to understand there is a difference. So the first thing I want to start with is the CCIE program we have elevated as a program. And what we have done is now we are going to completely focus on the entire network lifecycle, end to end. At the CCNP, on the contrary, we did have the focus on the complete lifecycle, but they were compartmentalized, modularized, individual, and they had a choice. They could be focusing on design, or they could be focusing on implementation or troubleshooting or something. But within the CCIE, it's no longer a choice. The expectation from that expert level engineer is that they need to understand the full paradigm of the network lifecycle, which is design, deploy, operate, and optimize. And that is what, in another word, we call it day 0, day 1, day 2. So when you start talking to your customer, gathering the information, how to design a solution, and then going into day 1 into deploying and implementing the solution, and day 2 maintaining the network operationally, optimizing it, and keeping it running. So the CCIE expectation is that you need to know aspects of every life cycle.
Yeah, so the CCIE, in order to get it, you have to take one of those same technology cores. So we have, again, enterprise, service provider, data center, collab, and security. So you pick the technology track you're interested in. You take the technology core. That you have to do first. So that technology core, you can then take a concentration if you want. That would give you a CCNP if it's in the same technology track, and then you can go sit for the CCIE lab. Every CCIE lab module or lab exam, all 5 of them. Well, actually, we have 6. We have 2 in enterprise, but all of the CCIE lab exams, they're all the same format, 8 hours like today. But the first is, it's 2 modules now. First is a 3-hour design module, so a low-level design. How do I take the technology? How do I design for that technology? And that will be scenario-based. So you sit at a computer and you answer the questions that give you the scenarios, and you work through that.
Now, is that new for CCIE?
That is new for CCIE.
Before it was just the DE that was
right.
design focused.
The DE was looking more at a higher-level design, taking the business requirements into. This is taking the technology requirements and how will we implement these technology requirements? Applied design.
Okay, awesome.
And so then the second module, so you get through that. The second module is 5 hours, and that is the implement, the operate, the optimize. So you'll see a topology might not be exactly the same that you designed, but it won't be completely foreign to you. And then you will have to be doing that implement, operate, which includes troubleshoot and optimize to get your to pass and to get your CCIE in the various technology tracks.
And that's what we will call it progressive storyline. So today, what happened in the current CCIE, in the 8-hour, there are 3 modules. There is a troubleshooting, there is diagnostic, and there is a configuration. Within these 3 modules, they were practically 3 different exams. So you could have a different topology in troubleshoot, a completely different topology in configure, and people were struggling that, well, I have to completely reset my thought mindset, exactly. And let's say a network OSPF was here, or there was a BGP peering this way. All that had kind of reset in the configuration or diagnostic or troubleshoot. Now what we are saying, since it's a complete life cycle, we will maintain that storyline. Yes, there will be some new changes. So maybe when you were doing design, there were 2 branches and a data center or a campus network. And in the configuration, the second module, there could be, we have now a new branch added to the network or something, and we are optimizing and operating and merging it. So there's going to be a common theme. There is going to be a common network that they will see from the first module to second, so it will kind of be a continuity, but still those modules will be separate. It's not that you kind of mess up in the first module and that will affect your second
right,
module.
'cause that would be the worst.
Yeah, because you may mess up your design and you didn't know the correct answer or you didn't know what the solution was, but does it mean then my module 2 is impacted? No. You will reset that module, but the storyline, the topology is same.
And the other thing is we folded in elements of programmability into automation into all the
Big
CCIE
time.
labs. You need to know this at some level. All network engineers need to know this. You don't have to be a software developer, but you need to be able to have some of these foundational skills. So you'll have to demonstrate that. For example, configure a static route via RESTconf. As an example, and we'll make it so when we evaluate that we know you did that via RESTconf and not via the CLI. So that's the other element that goes into this holistic life cycle. It's also about how do we do this at scale? How do we do this in a replicable way? How do we do this reliably? And that's with the automation and the programmability.
Yeah. And that's a key point, because even in the CCNP conversation that we had earlier, that automation as a skill is important, but it's a choice. Like we said, you can take an enterprise automation as a choice, security automation as a choice. But at the CCIE level, it's not a choice. We expect you to understand all of that and use it in your 8-hour lab. And it depends where it applies. I mean, automation and programmability is more heavier in some technology tracks like enterprise or service provider,
data center.
Where it's more mature, right?
More
Yeah.
mature, and in collaboration or somewhere else, it's more lower. So depending on our own products and solutions and APIs and integration of software automation, we have blueprints scaled to that level. But the message is that it's an integral skill that we expect the CCI engineers to have. And that's important. The other clarity that just came to my mind was that there is a misnomer that, we have removed the CCIE written, so now I can go straight to the lab. Well, one clarification is that CCIE is still a two-step process. 2 steps. Step number 1, you need to take the technology core. Step number 2, you have to take the lab. So it's only about the nomenclature that previously they used to call it a written exam and lab exam. Now we call it technology core exam and the lab exam.
So it's just pretty much, if you're a CCNP, it's just going to be taking that lab and getting ready for that.
And it has to be done in 3 years. So your learning journey has to complete within 3 years of the technology core. Same thing with CCNP. To get that concentration, you need to have the 2 within the 3-year span. And that's to make sure that what you've tested on from a technology perspective is still fresh, still pertinent to both the lab and the written, the technology core component. So just that's the only bit to be aware of.
Okay.
So the lab exam is similar to what we have today. You have to fly somewhere if you're not local, or go to where Cisco have specific labs and then do the lab, as we've had in the past.
Yes, and we also have mobile events. So we also have the brick and mortar locations and the mobile events. So depending on whichever is closer to you, you can choose that.
For example, Saturday and Sunday before here, Cisco Live, we offered a mobile event here where people could come and take the lab. And the lab itself is virtual. We have we can scale that very nicely, but we have to also have the right proctors. We have to have the right testing environment set up locally. But yeah, we try to do these local mobile events as much as we can.
I had a question today from someone. I'm currently a CCNP. In February, I get this new CCNP. Can I go straight to CCIE, or do I need to redo the technology core?
Maybe. So I say maybe because when did you complete your last CCNP exam that would have given you core equivalent? So let's take a very practical example of CCNP route switch, where you have, if you look at our migration tool, there's a route and there's a switch exam. If you pass both of them today, that will give you technology core equivalence in February 24th. So if I pass them both, if I pass the last one, if I pass switch today as an example, then I would have 3 years from today to take my lab once it becomes February 24th. So I'm not going to get a full 3 years from February 24th. I'm going to get whatever the delta is between now and, well, I still 3 years. What's today's date? The 12th. So the 12th of June, 2022, I would have until then to be able to sit for and pass my CCIE lab.
So that's actually interesting. I don't actually have to be a CCNP. I just have to have done route and switch.
Correct.
And
You
then
have to have equivalency for that technology core, and you can sit for the lab in your same technology track.
Same
then.
technology.
within 3 years, like when
Within
you said.
3 years from whenever the last time you took that
That's
old
great.
exam. Now, what they can easily do, we have this migration tool. So when they go to that website we mentioned earlier, cisco.com/next level, they should go to whichever CCNP they are today. If you are CCNP wireless or CCNP route switch or CCNP security, click on that. That will take you to the new CCNP homepage, and scroll down, you will see a migration page. In the migration on the left, you will tick which exams you have taken or passed. And when you tick that, on the right, it will show you what you will land into, what is your new home. And if it says you are now going to have the specialist core, technology core, then you're good for the lab prerequisite. But again, the timing, the clock starts from the last time you took that equivalent exam, the old one.
But this is a great incentive to, again, as we've said in previous discussions, you get it as soon as you can.
Finish your journey, complete, because you will gain more value out of finishing this journey.
You're always going to get asked this. Like some guys took their CCIE 20 years ago, some took it 5 years ago. Like, which one's the most difficult? Are you making the tracks more difficult, or is it just different?
I disagree with that comment, because
Exactly.
no lab is difficult or harder from another. It is perspective. For me, security could be easier because I've lived and breathed security for more than 2 decades. But for Joe, it could be alien, and he would be struggling in the security lab. So it's just where you are in your skills and your knowledge. And all labs, we have a very rigor process to balance our exam at a level. And we have resident psychometricians who help us to weight all the exam. And that's another thing that people ask me, so what is the cut score? Because when I took my lab way back, it was very commonly known that 80% was that cut score. That today is not static.
It's
80%.
variable.
It's variable, because no 2 exams can be at same difficulty level. So our psychometrician will weight it depending on the rating and weighting of the each question, and have a threshold. So maybe if the exam is weighted too high and it's more difficult, then the cut score could be hypothetically could be 70 or 72. And if the exam was like slightly at a different weight, it could be 83 cut score or 84 cut score. So I'm just giving some examples to illustrate that it's not like a static line. It depends on the weight of that exam.
Yeah, and I dare any of you kids today to go and take a test on DECnet, IPX, and AppleTalk that I had to take with ISDN and Frame Relay, and you tell me which one is harder. So it's all perspective. And I don't know that I could sit through today's lab either. So skills change, your job changes, and that's what we're trying to adapt our whole portfolio to be able to recognize that and really give people an opportunity to assert, this is what I know, this is what I can do, this is what I like to do and want to do.
No, I've got a question pertinent to myself, my own situation right now. So I'm taking the CCIE written tomorrow, and I've got my CCNP.
Oh, really? Chuck?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Tomorrow morning,
good.
8 a.m.
My God, I'll be waiting for your
Yeah,
result.
But then
don't
that's
party too hard tonight.
Yeah. But then that brings me to, well, if I don't take my lab before February 2020, what happens to
do
my
it all
written?
over again, man. We don't care. No, you will be migrated just like the CCNP. You will be migrated on the 24th to give your what route switch you're
Route
taking?
switch, yeah.
You'll be given the enterprise core specialist, and then you'll have again 3 years from tomorrow to take your lab.
Okay, so really, and what the point I was getting to is I already have my CCNP, so I would get that anyway.
You
so
would've gotten
passing
that
the
anyway.
written wouldn't matter for me.
if you already have your CCNP route switch, you would it would matter from the sense that you've prepared for it and you have that knowledge.
Right. So
but you
I would
still
know
be
more
able
about what's
to
going to
sit-
happen.
You would still be able to sit through the lab.
But
fourth lab.
hypothetically, if you didn't take the written tomorrow, and in the migration come February, you
would
got
have less time.
You have less time because the last exam, let's say you had to take 3 exams, right? Route, switch, T-shoot. So between route and switch, when was the last time you took it? Do you remember roughly? Like,
I took T-shoot in January. It was like a year
so
before that I
T-shoot
took
doesn't
route.
count
Doesn't
towards
count.
the equivalent.
Yes,
so
only
between
only had
route
2
and
years.
switch,
Yeah.
you took maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So now you only have 1 year to
a very
take the
good
lab.
point.
So you may, to get that elasticity, you may want to take the written again and get that full 3 year or at least 2.5 year from now till February.
That's a
so you
good
get
point.
more time to prepare for your lab.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard this. I mean, you use this term, and I think this is what I like. It's a reboot, isn't it? It's different. I mean, we can have an argument about like ATM or ISDN, CCIEs that we
Sure.
did years and years ago. But I mean, it's
we don't got time for that.
but it's you've changed the way that it's done. I mean, you went from
Exactly.
2 days to 1 day, and then we had troubleshooting. This is an iteration of
Yeah,
it.
it's and internally the project code name was certification 2.0, and for CCIE we always like even in our emails or documentation CCIE 2.0. So this is a reboot because now we have elevated. It's a conceptually we are now for including design in it, automation, programmability. We're changing the structure of the format and all that. So there's a lot of change. So we cannot compare one-to-one with the current one, but it is taking to the next level.
And I wanted to ask you about CCDE because we don't have a design track per se anymore. So is there CCDE? What's happening with that?
CCDE stays. For right now, that program is untouched, as well as the architect program. So at this point, CCDE stays. You can still test in it. You will still be able to test in it after the 24th. So no changes to that program, the design expert and the architect at this time.
But I would like to clarify one thing, that some people are kind of challenged or confused that, well, while you're adding design in the CCIE lab, then isn't CCD redundant or I don't need it? It's different, and that's why we clarified earlier that design has different skill set. There's high level design, there's low level design, technical design, applied design. So there's like different design skills. In the CCDE, the skills are more broader, getting customer requirement, business needs, doing a total cost of ownership or ROI on your solution. So there are different measurements that we are trying to do in the CCDE certification. And then CCIE design is more closer to the technical design, which we call LLD, low-level design, that, well, once the bigger solution has been kind of created, now you're going to do that application and applied design on that particular track. Because CCDE today is very high level. It's not CCDE routing or CCDE security or CCDE collab. So that design for that technical area is in the CCIE 3 hour that Joe mentioned earlier.
That's great. Any other like feedback about the exam?
CCIE is now moving to a 3-year lifespan or life cycle.
That's a big one.
Meaning you don't have a suspend year anymore, and it's more than 2 years. So you'll get 3 years. You will migrate to get your 3rd year of active CCIE. So if like I recertify this December, I would normally have to recertify again in December 2021. But now, as soon as February 24th hits, I will have to recertify in December 2022. I get that 3rd suspend year as an active year. CE, continuing education, still valid for the CCIE because we are giving you that 3rd year of active. It'll be 120 continuing education credits. You can pass the DE written as a single exam to recertify, or you can mix and match. You can take technology core plus earn 40 CE credits. You can take 3 concentrations and recertify your CCIE. So CCIE is evolving a little as well with continuing education, but you also get that 3rd year as well.
And that's what they should check out, the matrix and all the different permutations that we mentioned earlier, that now it's hybrid. So people can decide that whether they want to do training and exam, because currently CCIE was either or. Either you take exam or you take continuing education. So that's a big change for the CCIE community, that they were not aware that they could now mix and match between training and Cisco Live and exams.
That's
Oh,
great.
wow.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Right. So they have to look at the weighting, that if they have taken technology core, for example, that's not going to get them enough to that 120 credits. They may need to top up another 40 credits. So, so it's like different table and metrics, so they can check it out on our website.
And the final thing is, so I
was
see
gonna
you're
say, what about
CCIE
old-
Emeritus.
What about old people like
You're
us?
a CCIE Emeritus, but you're not yet to 20 years.
No.
I would, once I recertify, once December 5th comes, I will be 20 years. If you've been a CCIE in good standing, meaning either Emeritus or active for 20 years, you will be entitled to a lifetime Emeritus status. So you get Emeritus, you no longer have to pay the administrative fee, and you can always go active if you recertify. Now, if you accidentally forget to recertify after 3 years and you've been a CCIE in good standing for 20 years, you will automatically become Emeritus lifetime so that you don't lose your number.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's
only when you get 20 years.
you
I've
have
got
to
a
have
few
20
more
years.
years to wait. Yeah.
20
Yeah.
years.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do have one last question. It goes into the automation portion of the CCIE exam. I'm assuming that we're going to have to know just a little bit of programming.
You will.
So if that's the case, does it have to be one particular language? Do you get to choose?
We've kind of settled on Python in general. Even in the DevNet, many of the DevNet associate and professional have Python seems to be the language du jour, and that's what you'll have to know. We might have more choice in some of our tests where either you do it with a script or you do it with like a tool that proves you can know and understand the API. That is still to be determined. But in general, Python is the language we've chosen. There is JavaScript in the WebEx concentration that DevNet is put forth, but everywhere else you'll see Python as that language.
Oh, cool. Well, Python's the one. All right.
And one more thing, because we were talking about automation, in the last 1 year or so, people are always asking me that, when is Cisco going to announce a CCIE in SDN, software-defined
Yeah.
networking? So now I guess it's very clear to the community how we are positioning our automation skills, and it's in two ways. First is that automation and programmability is woven in each track. Like we explained at length earlier, that if you're doing enterprise CCIE or security CCIE, you will be expected to do automation and programmability. But now we also announced on Monday that we have this new software developer track called DevNet. And we have DevNet Associate and DevNet Professional announced today. But we've also said that there will be a DevNet Expert in the future. It is going to come soon and more details to unfold. But that's kind of that how automation, if you're way deep into the software and automation, then you may want to pursue DevNet Expert, which is kind of at that same expert level certification for the engineering paradigm in the CCIE structure.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, seriously.
And
This
again,
is
go
exciting.
to cisco.com/nextlevel, all one word, and you can get all of these details and more, as well as look at the migration tools and see how you can earn continuing education credits now with your CCIE.
Yeah, and it's going to have super helpful information like how to, like if you're working on your route switch right now, how does that convert to the new stuff? You'll be able to go through all that matrix. I went through it this morning, kind of did drag and drop, and it's really intuitive. It's really easy to figure out, hey, where am I going to stand February 2020? So thanks, guys, so much. I mean, this has
pleasure.
been amazing.
Thank you for having us.
I know when this dropped down and everyone's like kind of like, what happened? And I think you helped us walk through that, held our hand, and I think we all understand a lot about what's happening.
Do not panic.
And we see
Yeah.
we see the why. And
Yeah.
I think the big takeaway now is that don't stop.
Yep.
You have 8 months. You got a time limit, which is kind of awesome because sometimes you get lazy. So this is your call. Get your stuff done, and you're gonna have a big payoff.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
That's about it. Appreciate it.
Thanks very
Thank
much.
you.
Sure. Bye.
Bye.